I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission of October 24th, 2018. A printed agenda is available outside the hearing room, and a copy of the full agenda, including the staff reports, is available at the front of the chambers with the clerk. The Open Meetings Act is posted just inside the doors at the back of the room. If you parked in the parking garage across the street to the north, please be sure to pick up a parking coupon on your way out for free parking. And out of courtesy for those attending this meeting, the commissioners and the staff, cellular phone usage is not permitted in these chambers during any portion of this meeting. We appreciate your cooperation. The Planning Commission action is final on the following agenda items today. 1.2, Combined Special Use Permit 19B, and item 1.3, Special Permit 18040. Any aggrieved person may appeal final action of the Planning Commission to the City Council or County Board by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk within 14 days following the action of the Planning Commission. The first item of business today is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held October the 10th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved. Washington.
Second, Edgerton.
Please call the roll.
Beckius?
Abstain.
Okay. Campbell?
Yes.
Edgerton?
Yes.
Finnegan?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Core?
Yes.
Scher?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
The next item of business is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be called at the same time and will not be scheduled for a separate public hearing unless there is a request from someone wishing to speak or at the request of a commission member. I'll ask Jerry to read all of the consent agenda items into the record, and once those items are read, she will ask if there's anyone wishing to speak. If you wish to speak on an item on the consent agenda, we would ask that you stand and state that item, and then that item will be removed from the consent agenda and scheduled as a separate public hearing under Section 3 of today's agenda. All items remaining on the consent agenda will be voted upon in total with a motion for approval. Jerry, will you please call the items on the consent agenda?
Yes. Item 1.1 is change of zone 18029 from R2 Residential District to O2 Suburban Office District on property generally located at 4740 F Street. Item 1.2 is combined special use permit 19B, an amendment to allow the enclosure of an existing dock on property generally located at 1710 South 70th Street. And item 1.3, special permit 18040 to allow for the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises associated with the restaurant on property generally located at North 70th Street and Vine Street, more specifically 836 North 70th Street. And I would note that it is final action by the Planning Commission today on the combined special use permit 19B and special permit 18040 unless appealed to the City Council within 14 days. Are there any ex parte communications to be disclosed on these agenda items?
I see none.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on either of these items? If so, please stand and state that item.
We will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, Core.
Please call the roll.
Okay, Beckius?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Edgerton?
Yes.
Finnegan?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Core?
Yes.
Scher?
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
There are no requests for deferral, so we will now proceed to the public hearings. If the staff will make a brief presentation. The applicant will then be requested to present his or her testimony, followed by those who wish to testify in support, followed by those who wish to testify in opposition. The staff will then be given an opportunity to respond to the testimony, and then the applicant shall have an opportunity for rebuttal. If during your testimony you have copies of documents or materials you would like distributed to the Planning Commission members and or included as part of the record, please provide that information to the clerk for distribution. Each person testifying should state their name and address and shall have 5 minutes to speak unless additional time is requested and granted. The timer will go off after 4 minutes, then you will have 1 minute to wrap up your testimony. The Planning Commission will vote immediately at the close of the public hearing unless the Commission votes to defer action or continue the public hearing. Jerry, please call the first public hearing item.
Okay, there's two associated items. Item 4.1A is text amendment 18012 to amend the Lancaster County zoning regulations by adding definitions, adding permitted uses, conditional uses, or special permitted uses to the AG, AGR, R, and B districts, adding Article 24 for historic preservation, and making other minor changes throughout the zoning regulations. Staff recommendation is for approval. The associated text amendment 18013 to amend the Lancaster County subdivision regulations by amending chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. Staff recommendation is for approval. Are there any ex parte communications to be disclosed?
I see none. So we'll do the process for both, and then we'll vote separate
That's
for each
correct.
motion. Okay,
Okay.
Tom.
Tom Jacob, planning staff. Good afternoon. So we have, as Jerry said, we have two applications. First, I'll go over the zoning text proposal. I believe all of you were here 2 weeks ago when we did the briefing. So I'm just going to kind of quickly hit some highlights of it. The change to the zoning text is basically a cleanup, some reformatting, and to add some clarity where it was needed. By doing this, we added some definitions to the definition chapter and amended some other definitions, added some uses that were missing or needed to be added to the different districts, AG, AGR, R residential district, and B business district. Did some other cleanup in the special permit chapter. A couple of the more major things was under the community unit plan chapter, we added some language working with the health department on water well information, what needed to be provided, and a process for waiving the requirement for test wells. That wasn't in there previously. And another probably major change was adding a new chapter for historic preservation district. Before I go to subdivision, sir, does anybody have any questions on the proposed zoning text change?
Maya?
Just one. I can't remember if you went over this in the briefing, but in the community unit plans, what was the reason for striking the dense part about design standards and density, 14.014?
Because there are no design standards in the zoning code, and it referenced, and so we took that section out. I'm not sure, I think it was just something that just kept being left in there every time something was amended in the code and just was never caught.
Is it just copied from the city code maybe, or?
No, it's probably been in there since '79 maybe, but the zoning code doesn't have density doesn't talk about density or have design standards. The density has always been determined as you get one lot for every 20, under AG zoning, you'd get one lot for every 20 acres, plus there's a provision for a bonus, you get a 25% bonus for it, density bonus, which is laid out in the CUP chapter.
All right, well, it seems like a good thing to strike them.
Tom, under the historic preservation analysis, it mentions that the text would make Lancaster County eligible to become Nebraska's first county-wide certified local government. What does that mean?
Good question. Not sure.
Okay.
That came from Ed Zimmer.
Okay.
I could offer a definition. Certified local governments are there in order to receive federal funding under the Historic Preservation Act of 65. Got it.
Yeah, I think this does allow them to get funding where without that chapter in there today, it be I think it's difficult to get funding.
So that means that right now we can get that kind of funding for the city, but this would make it countywide.
Yes.
Got it.
And the way the county zoning is today, there's no provision that the buildings have to go through a review by the Historic Preservation Commission, that like you do in the city. This would now require that.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Tracy?
Yeah, I do. The water waiving of the test wells and the water issues, I just, and I'm fine with it, but I just was wondering, like it says this would allow a waiver if satisfactory geological and hydrological information is provided. Do you have examples of that? I mean, because if they don't have a test well, how are they getting that information, I guess, is my question.
They look at other wells in the surrounding area, and based on that data and information, we have done these in the past on other community unit plans. It was always a little bit questionable with health, so they wanted it more, in black and white. Under a community unit plan, which is a special permit, you can always waive conditions, but, so we always took the approach, anything's waivable under that, so that's how they could do it. But this spells it out clear, and it also, I think, is clear on what type of information health department wants to see if you're going to waive those test wells.
So both in the zoning part and the subdivision part, it's really getting to the same thing with the 14.013 and the 7.01.
Right, it's the same language, yes.
And we have done this in the past, sort of, we're just kind of solidifying the wording.
Right.
Great, thanks.
Other questions about item 4.1A? Okay, you want to go to item 4.1B?
Okay. Subdivision, basically, same process, changing some definitions, cleaning up some chapters, correcting typos, language. Again, we have in section 7, as just mentioned, the new language about well information. There was a lot of outdated terminology, like, for example, changing Department of Roads to Department of Transportation, making things more not so specific, where they would, like how a road is to be built, said per section such and such a Department of Roads. Sometimes those sections didn't even exist anymore, and things are amended all the time, so now it's more general, just to say, like, in compliance with regulations of Department of Transportation. Questions on that?
Questions?
I had a question on Chapter 9, the modification requirements, and allowing the Planning Commission to grant waivers. Can you just explain that a little bit more for me?
Well, almost everything else, Planning Commission can grant waivers. For some reason in the subdivision code, it still had language that any waivers had to go to county board. City subdivision waivers can be granted by the Planning Commission, so make everything uniform. We thought you might as well.
So really, we're just saying it wouldn't have to go that extra step to the county board, it could just stop here.
Correct.
Okay, other questions? Okay, I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Is there testimony in support of either of these items? Is there testimony in opposition of either of these items? Are we finished with questions for Tom? Okay, I think then we are ready to entertain a motion for item 4.1A first, text amendment 18012.
Move to approve Campbell.
Second, Edgerton.
Okay, discussion?
I think I'm going to talk about both of them.
Sure, yeah.
I think they make sense. We're really just doing a lot of cleanup, like Tom said, making sure our words match Department of Transportation, Department of Roads. And a lot of it, too, I think, is being consistent with what we have in the city jurisdiction, so that's, I think, a wise move as well. So I think it's a good step.
Anybody else? I think it's great that we're obviously gone through the process, but I agree with Tracy that huge benefit here to try to align the county and the city a little better with these text amendments. I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, this is for the approval of text amendment 18012. Beckius?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Edgerton?
Yes.
Finnegan?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Core?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, now we need to entertain a motion for amendment 18013.
Move approval, core.
Second, Beckius.
Any further discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, Beckius?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Edgerton?
Yes.
Finnegan?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Core?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
At this time, anyone wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so. If not, we are adjourned.